It hasn't exactly been the smoothest of springs in Madison, Wisconsin. Is this Badger offense in trouble as we look forward to 2025? The Penn State Nittany Lions have now added their third transfer portal wide receiver of this offseason. Will now former Syracuse pass catcher Trebor Pena be the piece to really take this Nittany Lions passing attack to that next level? I'm going to tackle both of these right now.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
The pictures of these rosters are becoming a lot more clear. We're starting to get a really good idea of what all 18 teams in the Big Ten are going to look like. A lot of spring practices are done. I think we've only got a couple of more spring games to go. The spring transfer portal is closed. Yeah, you're going to see some transfer portal commitments certainly kind of leak in here maybe over the next couple of weeks. But I think what we see from a lot of rosters around the conference right now is maybe what you're going to get when we fast forward to fall camp that starts in late July and early August. Now, looking forward to 2025, I want to start first with the Wisconsin Badgers because I think we got some positivity. I think we've also got some negativity. Maybe this kind of sides a little bit on the negativity, but there is, I think, some positivity that we can kind of take out of the situation at Wisconsin. I think you're kind of towing both sides of the line, so to speak. So let's talk about this spring for the Badgers. This is a Wisconsin team that has lost not one, not two, but three pass catchers that I think certainly could have played, at the very least, a key or vital role within their Badger offense for 2025. Now, you see it every now and then, but it's not the most common thing in the world where you see a guy portal in the winter and then portal out in the spring. But it happened not only once, but twice for Wisconsin. Tanner Koziel was really one of the top tight ends in this transfer portal cycle. Wisconsin fans were very excited about him when he transferred in from Ball State, put up some really big numbers in the MAC last season. Big, tall, pass-catching type of target at that position. But then he portaled out, did not practice that much in the spring, if at all. And then he portals out over to the Houston Cougars. Mark Hamper was another one. Wide receiver, transferring in from FCS Idaho, had over 900 yards receiving at that level. But now he's portaling. He portaled in the winter, and he's portaling back out in the spring. He's headed over to Cal Berkeley, a little bit closer to home from his home in West Linn, Oregon as well. Quincy Burrows is another name that is transferred out of the program. He came over with Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. Didn't receive a ton of time, but he was a guy that was possibly trending to get certainly some more touches, maybe some more catches within this Badger offense this season. Like, this is not maybe what you want to see, certainly, for Wisconsin when you want to, especially in the first year of an offense. You certainly want to have as many options as you possibly can right now. But here's, I think, what I will say about the Badgers, specifically at the wide receiver position. And this kind of goes into my next point that's on the graphic as well, is this is going to be an offense that I think overall as Wisconsin, they're going to try to turn back the clock a little bit, especially on offense. This is a team that's going to look to be more physical. This is going to be a team that's going to be a lot more run first. And like when you look at what Phil Longo was really putting on the field, air raid, wide receivers, not as much certainly in the pass game, and then you kind of compare it to what this team is going to look like, you can maybe see some positivity, or you can take some positivity out of the situation where maybe there isn't as much wide receiver depth. Maybe that's not the worst thing in the world because this team is going to be a lot more physical. You look at what's in the wide receiver room right now for Wisconsin, I think at the very least there's two really good options and possibly a third. Vinny Anthony is the returning receiver from last year. Now, I think Vinny is that deep threat going down the field. We'll talk about the run game here in just a minute, but when you pound the rock, and the defense certainly starts to creep up towards the line of scrimmage, he's the guy that's proven that has the speed to get over the top. Tretch Kekahuna, we've seen some flashes from him. Maybe we haven't seen it as much consistently, but he's kind of that guy. He's got the perfect stature to really come out of that slot position. And then you got someone like Jaden Ballard. Jaden Ballard he's transferring in from Ohio State to Wisconsin. He was a top 100 recruit when he came out, and Ohio State's wide receiver room is what it is. It's extremely crowded. They recruit the best guys in the country, but you're starting with those three guys, and maybe that, like I said, this is going to be a little turning back the clock a little bit. Like, you look at Wisconsin back in the day, they're lining up with a fullback, they're lining up with a tight end, they're lining up with a couple of receivers. So if you can trot out three good receivers, I think that you can really rely on, and then see what you have depth-wise after that, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. I know on the surface, it certainly doesn't look good when all of these players transfer out in this spring period. Like Luke Fickell, what have I said about his program? It's spinning on the hamster wheel, and when you see these types of players that certainly could have played a role transfer out of the program, it's not the greatest look. But I think when you look at the pieces in the room, I still think there's some room for some optimism. I think that this is, and I think one thing that I'm very optimistic about is Wisconsin's increase in using the tight end a little bit more. Like in the Phil Longo system, air raid, you bring in a lot more wide receiver talent on the outside. There's not a whole lot for tight ends. But like I already mentioned, they brought in Tanner Kojal, and he left the program. So what are they going to do at tight end? Now they bring in a guy by the name of Lance Mason, transferring in from Missouri State, 6'4", 240-pound tight end. Certainly a bigger frame, right? 34 catches, 590 yards, 6 touchdowns. He was an FCS All-American, okay? So what does this tell us? Kojal goes out, Mason comes in. This is a coaching staff. This is an administration. This is a plan that they clearly have that says we want a really good pass-catching tight end, which I think is certainly going to be a plus, moving back in the right direction, certainly for Wisconsin football right now. Okay, so maybe there isn't as much concern because this team is going to run the football a lot more. I think for Wisconsin to be successful, they have to run the football. I know Billy Edwards he certainly showed some prowess throwing the football at times last year. I think it was like top 5 or top 6 in the Big Ten in passing yards, only 15 touchdowns. Though last season in College Park, Maryland. But I think that this is a team that's just they're gonna be physical. They're gonna run the football, and that's what they're going to lean on. That's what they have to lean on to certainly be successful. They return their starting center in Jake Renfro. They return Joe Brunner over at guard, and then right tackle Riley Mollman. I think that this is a front that's gonna do really well running the football. I would feel a lot better if they had their left tackle, Kevin Haywood. Kevin Haywood sounds like he's going to be hurt, requires surgery. He's going to be out for the season. And that's a big blow. 4-star guy from the state of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago. Man, if they would have had him, I would have felt really, really comfortable about this offensive line. That's one part of this, right? If you're maybe looking for a weak link in the chain, something if I'm a Wisconsin fan that I'm concerned about, maybe where there is a little bit of trouble, what is Wisconsin going to do at the other tackle position? That's something that I would certainly have my eyes on, and that would pique my interest if I were a Wisconsin fan to say, what do we have to do to be able to kind of figure that thing out over on that side of the ball? Let's answer the question. Is Wisconsin in trouble right now? I would say no. Because I think you got good pass catchers. I think you've got potentially 4 good pass catchers when you factor in the tight end transferring in, and when you factor in some of these wide receiver options as well. But I think that this is a Wisconsin run game. Like, you've got Darian Dupree coming back. I thought Dylan Jones had better high school tape when he came out as compared to Dupree. Cade Yakameli is coming in. There's a potential for 3 really good running backs. I think that this is a offense that's going to take the ball out of the quarterback's hands a little bit more. There's not going to be as much pressure for the quarterback to certainly create some plays, try to keep some offenses off the field. Right now, I would say I'm not sure if they're in trouble right now. I just think that maybe some things have kind of worked out the way they have for a reason, because that's maybe the way Wisconsin is kind of structuring things right now within their offense. Let's head over to Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, and you got to think Penn State fans are happy with yet another wide receiver transfer portal addition, and this one is very exciting. Trebor Pena, last season, 84 catches, 941 yards, and 9 touchdowns. He led the Orange with 9 receiving touchdowns. This was a Syracuse offense engineered by Kyle McCord. It was the top passing offense in all of college football last season. And when you look at the skill set of Trebor Pena, I think it just kind of blends in with the other 2 transfers that they've been able to bring in this offseason. Devontae Ross, I think he's going to be that vertical threat. He's going to be that guy that they're going to look to stretch the field with on the outside. He transfers in from Troy. You've got a veteran, reliable weapon in Kyron Hudson. And then you slide right into the slot in Trebor Pena. You watch a lot of film from Syracuse. He's working the middle of the field, where you look at a guy like Devontae Ross and he's going to look to get vertical and they're going to look to get deep. Trebor Pena is very much, let's work within like 10 to 12 yards within the line of scrimmage. Let's find a way to get open. Whether it's a quick slant, whether it's an out route. I even saw some jet sweeps. Let's just get him the football, because when he gets the football in the middle of the field, he's able to create and he's able to make guys miss, and he's certainly able to go and take it to that next level. So I think he's going to slide right into that starting slot role. I know Liam Clifford is in there. I know there's certainly some other guys, but I kind of look around right now at this Penn State wide receiver room, and the big question that I posed earlier this offseason is like, okay, you're losing Amari Evans, you're losing Harrison Wallace. You need to make sure that you're better. You look back to that Penn State loss against Ohio State, they just could not separate. They did not have the talent on the outside. Now that I kind of look at this thing, I don't know if they're in play for another one, but it looks like there's some finality certainly forming within this wide receiver room in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. I think right now I feel better. Maybe right now we're getting the final answer to the question. I feel better about this wide receiver room and their ability to be more explosive down the field than I certainly do about last year's wide receiver room. Because when you talk about being explosive down the field, there's 2 kinds of explosiveness. I talked about Devontae Ross in those one-on-one matchups and what he can do over the top, and then you look at the catch and run explosiveness from Trebor Pena, certainly coming out of the slot as well. I think there's certainly some warranted excitement right now. Now, this year is going to be a little bit interesting because Tyler Warren was such a big part to that blue and white offense last season. I think this wide receiver room I think the wide receivers and tight ends are almost going to kind of flip-flop from where they were last year, where Penn State's offense was so dependent on Tyler Warren's ability to make big plays for them. That's really what they needed in the passing game, and the wide receivers were almost like an afterthought. I think this year it's going to be flip-flop. Not saying Luke Reynolds can't make a big play. Not saying Khalil Dinkins can't make a big play. I just think now you're going to look to the explosiveness of Pena in the slot. You're going to look to the explosiveness of Devontae Ross getting over the top, maybe even Kyron Hudson as well. I think now it's going to go more towards the wide receivers than it is the tight ends. And that might be a good thing for someone like Luke Reynolds, who is very, very highly recruited. All right? Maybe he's a guy where there's maybe early in the season, there's maybe going to be more attention on the wide receivers. And now maybe that kind of presents him with some better matchups as well. Boy, if this passing attack can really hit their stride, if this passing attack is on point and they really take that next step up, and I think with the addition of Pena, with the other 2, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling good about this wide receiver. And we got a long way to go until we really find out what this wide receiver room is going to be all about with Drew Aller throwing them the football. But if they truly do have the passing attack as a legit weapon, and then you combine it with Katron Allen and frickin' Nick Singleton. I might adopt that as a nickname, frickin' Nick Singleton, running the football. This is where you start to hear that talk about Penn State being a national championship contender. They're so good at running the ball. They're so good at rushing the passer. Like, they're so good at kind of what they do. They just need to get better at just those weaknesses that they've had within this team and within this offense that we've really seen over the last handful of years with James Franklin's team. If they can really take those weaknesses and make them strengths, this is a team that could really be in national championship form when we're talking about this thing in November. Those are my thoughts on Wisconsin and Penn State. What are yours? Leave them in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.